Good afternoon. I thought I'll do something different this time. Let me walk you through a pretty typical project we have finished by now. And it's a terraced house, and we had a pretty long garden at the end, and the house was in a horrible state. So basically, when we redid it, it needed to be completely gutted. So again, a very, very typical project from start to finish, where we were planning to do a rear extension, a side extension, and a rear dormer. So let me walk you through it. As you can see at the beginning, it's again, fairly typical setup. You have a narrow entrance passage. The front reception room has a separate door. The rear reception room has a separate door. Okay, this one differs because somebody put in a window in between, which is definitely not original. And then we walk past, there was a downstairs bathroom already, and believe it or not, that was the kitchen. And then we had a room at the back, which probably would have been better as the kitchen, but still it's pretty small and awful. Going upstairs, we have 3 bedrooms. Biggest size bedroom is obviously on the front. That bedroom isn't too bad either. And somebody has actually done some work before we came on board. There's a small WC and a larger ensuite, family bathroom, and of course the rear bedroom, which is always the smallest, like in our case. And there's nothing. So in our case, actually, just going back to this quickly, there is somebody removed most of the ceiling above here. So when you're here, you can actually look up, and it makes you feel as if there's much more space. Obviously, now that we're doing the loft space, the ceiling obviously has to match the ceiling height of the main house. But let me walk you through the proposed plans now. So this is the proposed site plan. This client wanted to extend this quite a lot, to be honest. So starting with the entrance area, obviously none of the neighbors has had a bin enclosure, so we've given him that. And obviously you always do some work to the front garden. We got permission for a side extension, full width. And basically, since it was difficult to get a rear extension, so what's referred to as a wraparound, we got this separately through permitted development as a sort of glass conservatory, which ended up pretty much glazed with a glass roof and so on. The back, because neither of the neighbors' gardens were particularly nice to look at, and we have no control, of course, of what they do in the future. The whole point of this project was to have a fence as high as possible, so 2 meters, and have, in this case here, a planter and something we refer to as an acoustic timber fence, which is merely a fence with some planting on it, and then a shed with the central area left as turf. So again, quite a typical setup. You have the summary of areas here if you're interested. So let's dive into the ground floor. This actually got us very excited because right from the start, the client wanted to create a quote-unquote open plan as much as possible. So as you enter, we finally got a good place for a display cabinet, which in this case ended up being quite a large fish tank. So finally got one of those. We kept a few elements of the existing structure just to minimize the cost for the new structure. But in the end, you walked in, you have a great TV area. We get rid of all of the fireplaces. So you have a TV above the fireplace. And as you walked in, you of course see the new steel staircase with a glass balustrade and a grand dining room. And then you have 2 ways to get into the kitchen. Either you walk straight through and you get into the kitchen, which has got loads of light from roof lights in the side extension and even more light from the glass roof in the conservatory. It's a very contemporary open plan kitchen. And still, what was very important is to have a downstairs toilet. So always when you have a setup where you have a big open plan area, it's kind of difficult to place a bathroom, which can't be open plan. So in this case, what we've used is actually a solution we've used many times since. So you have to remember, this is the main house. It stops here. And by keeping this wall, or actually most of that, because we even kept the existing lintel, it's just the door got changed from the previous window, you can maintain the structure and save yourself quite a bit, and use the wall, onto which you can obviously hang a picture from here, as we've done. You can add the bathroom hidden behind it, and I think with that, it doesn't feel that you've put it anywhere where it blocks the natural flow. We made it a bit bigger to house a washer and dryer stacked, so the extraction can go out here straight away. And this actually, there was a lot of back and forth with the client, but we eventually settled on having an additional kitchen unit here. This ended up being the kitchen breakfast bar. They wanted a TV, so again, there aren't a lot of walls here which are not occupied by the kitchen. This didn't seem like a good idea, because that was an additional kind of children's play area, and also would get quite a lot of glare onto the TV. So this was chosen as a good spot. The rest is basically kitchen, and then we walk into the sort of conservatory glass roof area with the waterfall, which is still to be installed. Still, it's a very, very lovely open plan kitchen. So of course, in case you wonder, how did we get away with it? So the key was to use what's called a mist system, because of course, in terms of fire escape from the bedrooms above and the new bathroom, the new bedroom and the loft level, everybody has to be guaranteed a safe escape route through the entrance door. And by not having the traditional walls and fire doors, which you would have before, if you remember, we need to protect this particular corridor. A fire curtain wasn't a good solution, because it's quite a large area and these things would just mess up the whole space. So we basically installed a mist system, which it's like a sprinkler system, but it's like a light version of a sprinkler system. So going up to the first floor level, if you remember, we had 3 bedrooms, and guess what? We still have 3 bedrooms. However, we've managed to put in quite a few en-suites. So we had a wall somewhere here, if you remember. So now actually it's gotten a little bit more complicated. So let me walk through that. With this setup, every bedroom has got an ensuite, yet there is still a family bathroom, just in case. So starting from here, it's not a very common solution, and I have to say this is probably the first time we've actually built this. We created a very small ensuite using the window here, literally just because there seems to be quite a lot of depth, which the client was happy to sacrifice. So you walk in, you have a small double-sided walk-through wardrobe, which we have to slim down a little bit with the depth. So this particular one only had shelves, and you walk in, shower, toilet and sink. So again, pretty good. And then you walked around, and we have a foldable bed. So it's one of these clay beds, which you can fold all the way up. And so this room could have different uses, not just a regular bedroom. The family has got a few children, so that's sort of one of the reasons. Here, we gave ourselves a little bit more space for the door before we come in. So you can see there's a small area of new built wall. So that door has literally just shifted here to the side, because otherwise it was very, very close and we couldn't really have a bedside table here. So you walk in. By getting rid of this particular fireplace, this one we didn't remove, by the way, because we still had a fireplace, just a much more modern version below. So we needed here, the flue to go all the way up to the chimney. Here, however, we decided not to. So we used the whole wall for a full height wardrobe, desk, to study. And then this is maybe the thing which isn't done very often for various reasons. So let me explain. So obviously, as you go up here from the ground floor, the minute you're at this level, obviously this whole floor here is on one level, and then the rest of the house is on a level 2 steps up. Now this could vary in terraced houses. You sometimes have 3 steps up, is I think the most common. Sometimes it's a bit more. Only because we only had these few steps, we decided to basically replicate these steps and give another access from this bedroom directly into this bathroom. I mean, I suppose you could argue you could just walk out and walk here, but our client preferred that this is actually an ensuite. We kept this door just because actually it's not a bad location for a door. And then another actually not so much trick, but something we do quite often, by utilizing that we have to have existing connections here anyway to the bathroom, you do another bathroom on the back of it, so you can share connections. For example, the toilet waste pipe was here in the corner as it was before, so it was relatively easy to get there. And also and this is what I meant before, by moving this door forward towards this side, you technically increase the area of the bedroom, because normally you would have put this door here, which would have been completely fine, but by moving it a little bit further across, you can add this area on paper to the area of your bedroom. It's not horribly useful space, but as a resale value, it adds, a little bit of brownie points basically. And again, this is a very, very typical layout. We have the bed on this side. Wardrobes not all the way through because you still need to go past, and it's one of the boys' rooms. Quirky little thing, since the whole staircase and basically most of the building was completely gutted, we put in a small walk-on glass floor, which is basically a non-openable piece of double glazed glass, which is toughened and laminated so you can walk on. It wasn't big enough that we have to have it sandblasted. I mean, this is personal preference. You just, I guess, you have to deal with potentially people looking up. But the main reason for that was that once we go up, we had another walk-on glass bit here. It wasn't, unfortunately, right above the one I've shown you before, but because there is another roof light above here, bear with me, you do get quite a bit of light through. So it's the best you can do, I think, with still having a very, very compact staircase. So this is the loft, and this is one of the few L-shaped roof extensions that we've gotten. So just to remind you, that's the front roof. So you keep the front slope of the roof, you add a dormer to the back. It's just literally shown as a little bit bigger because technically speaking, the space from the ridge line, which is here, towards the front of the roof, you still get the benefit of quite a high ceiling. So hence we can utilize that space as well. The difference is here that thanks to permitted development, we got permission for a extension on the rear part of the house, so hence L-shaped extension, and it was big enough for a bedroom. So obviously facing this way, it was not a problem to have glazing, full height glazing. The only downside out of these kind of setups, unfortunately, is that normally if this stays a rear roof, you get much bigger possibility of having a bigger opening with glazing. Here, obviously, you have to refrain yourself, so it's just as wide as the side passage. But, you get an additional very, very good bedroom. So in this case, this was actually, the whole space became a master suite. So again, this was a lot of back and forth with the client here, but I think it's very good that we've ultimately decided to go up. You walk straight up, and then the level difference between this and that, you will always have about, like 4 or 5 steps, which is what we had as well. And since you remember the setup from the first floor below, the client wanted the possibility to walk in from here to here straight away, rather than having a door here, because that was getting really difficult. So there is a separate door, and this space literally is at the moment a fairly large, admittedly, his and hers wardrobe. Dressing area with wardrobes. In the future, however, because that door can obviously be closed, we have this door. This could be used as a separate room. Granted, the master bedroom loses the ensuite, but then again, there's other rooms downstairs which can be utilized. So in many ways, there is probably more doors here that you absolutely needed to have. However, there's a bit of future-proofing built in. And it's a really amazing space with a fixed 2x2 meter roof light, a large flat roof terrace, which we cheekily put in as well, with great views for a distance. We just refrained from having a big roof light here because in many ways, as a dressing area, you have full height glazing here, which actually we made not openable, so you can't hinge it out, but what you do is you just kind of flip it a little bit, so you turn the handle upwards, so to speak. That's why you can avoid having a glass balustrade here. So again, you can't do that with all the suppliers, but if you use UPVC like we used here, that system is possible. So you can basically say that you can't hinge it open, but you can kind of flip it open, so to speak. And yeah, that's pretty much that. So again, just to show you roof lights. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole project. I hope you have enjoyed it. Let me know if there's, in the future, if there's particular aspects you'd like me to go through. I'm happy to scribble all over the place, but I thought it's probably easier for you to understand to show you the before and after. Again, happy to, for example, sketch out a few options or even show you a few options of layouts, and then I can let you guess which layout was chosen and built in the end. Let me know if you have any thoughts or comments like that, and I'll see you next time.